Angus King is a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. He's with us now from Brunswick, Maine. Senator, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie. Glad to be with you.
Let me begin with this. What do you expect to hear, hope to hear, plan to ask the Attorney General about when he appears before the Senate Intelligence Committee?
There are several things we want to look at. One is he was certainly a member of the Trump campaign. What were his contacts, if any, with Russian officials during the period of the campaign? I think that's certainly a question that we need to ask. Secondly, a question I'm interested in is what role did he play, if any, again, in the Comey firing? Because at that point, he was supposed to be recused from this investigation, have nothing to do with it. And to the extent the Comey firing had something to do with the investigation, I think that's an area that we need to explore.
That's exactly right. We heard James Comey raise concerns about the Attorney General's dealings with Russian officials. Do you believe there might have been a third meeting? What are some of these concerns?
Well, I don't want to comment on that. As you know, Mr. Comey, Director Comey, said we need to talk about some of these things in closed session. So I can't confirm whether there were other meetings. I think that's obviously one of the things we want to ask Mr. Sessions. And by the way, my inclination is that this should be in an open session. The only reason you go into a closed session is if it's national security, and I don't believe we're talking about national security issues here. If we get into national security issues, we can cut off that line of questioning and defer it to a closed session. But my starting point is that the American people need to understand this whole issue, and the more of these sessions we can have in public, the better.
Senator King, how is all of this sitting with you? You know, we've had time now to digest what Director Comey said. When you have time to take it all in and process it, how is it sitting with you, and what concerns you now going forward? How do we advance this investigation?
Well, what worries me about this and about all the drama surrounding the testimony last week is that I wouldn't say it's a diversion, because it's certainly an important issue, but the real issue here is what the Russians did. They attacked us. This was really serious, sophisticated, long-term. They knew what they were doing. And not only did they, get into emails and release emails and try to influence the election, they were also poking and prodding in state election systems, and they're going to be back.
Why hasn't the President of the United States, responsible for the national security of the United States, spoke out in the same way that you have and James Comey has?
Well, I have to tell you, Charlie, that I thought that was one of the most disturbing moments in the hearing with James Comey last week, was when Joe Manchin of West Virginia asked him that question. In those 9 interactions with the president, did he ever express any interest in what the Russians did, how they did it, how we know they did it, what their plans are? And the answer was no, zero. And that's very disturbing. And as you know, the president has sort of denigrated this whole idea from the very beginning, and it's really worrisome. I can understand his concern about whether his campaign was involved and whether he's implicated. That's certainly, understandable. But on the other hand, he's the commander in chief, and the country's under attack, and he's acting like it's all personal. This is a serious matter, and I wish he would sit down with the intelligence community and really absorb what was done here and the significance of it.
Senator King, thank you so much for joining us this morning from Maine.
Pleasure to be with you.